Good morning, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Analyze Customer Feedback with ChatGPT. Today's June 20th, 2024. So happy you took some time out of your day to join us. My name is Nick Fry, and I'm the Manager of Business Development with Tourism Nova Scotia. And Tourism Nova Scotia works with communities and industry to attract visitors to the province. We want to increase tourism revenues, and we do that through experience and sector development, working with businesses through coaching, marketing, and visitor services. So happy for you to join us today. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, just put it in the Q&A at the bottom, and we'll make sure we get them answered. If we share any links, resources, or software throughout the webinar, we'll make sure we send it out in an email afterwards. And there's closed captioning is optional if you'd like to turn it on the bottom bar on your screen as well. This webinar and all previous webinars are located on our website at tourismns.ca/webinar-series, Digiport, and on our YouTube channel. I'm hoping you joined us today through Digiport, and Digiport is one of its kind in Canada for tourism businesses. It's a one-stop shop where you can get where you can get program support. You can find out about different types of technology. You can have access to professional tip sheets, professional one-on-one services, any of our program information or webinars, and it's a partnership with Digital Nova Scotia. It's offered at no cost to you as a tourism business, so please check it out, sign up, and give us some feedback on what you think. So I'm really excited today to have Robert Newcombe from Newcombe's Consulting. Robert loves working with his clients. He loves to hear their ideas and how they approach AI and how they can work together. Robert's an industrial engineer. He's a passionate advocate for using AI to transform organizational productivity and profitability. And after a decade of consulting experience, and he's gained knowledge through project coaching and training experience in many different sectors and industries. Robert started Newcombe Consulting to help others improve their operations with generative AI. So I just think this is such a wide open frontier. We were just chatting about how, AI can be so many different things, and you just really need to harness it. So that's why we're trying to bring you the skills, the people that can help you do that. So Robert, welcome. Take over the screen, and can't wait for you to share some of your knowledge today.
Great. Thanks, Nick. And thanks everyone for taking time out of your busy, sunny, hot day to join the webinar. Hopefully you're in a nice spot and it's air conditioned and you get to spend a little bit of time outside after this webinar. So I'm going to talk today about generative AI, and specifically we're going to use ChatGPT to analyze customer feedback. And really you can take this for any sort of data analysis. So we'll be talking about customer feedback, but really if you have any type of data in your organization, you can follow some of these same steps. So you'll need to open ChatGPT to do this. So hopefully you've already created an account either ahead of today's session or you've been using it for a while now. I have a paid subscription. So you'll see at the top, I can toggle between models here. So this is important because my results, what you're going to see on my screen, will look different than what you see on your screen. So even if we're using the same model, how generative AI works is you're not going to see exactly what I'm seeing. Hopefully it's going to be the same answers as far as the data analysis goes, but the charts might look different. The text and the output might look different, although it should be very similar. You should also have a Word document that was sent out before. This is basically the script and the agenda for today. So I'm going to copy and paste from here. I'd like you to copy and paste and do this in real time with me, see what your responses are. And it's going to be a lot easier than you having to type and follow along. So that's why this is here. It's just to try to speed up the process of going through and to cover as much material as we can in the hour. So if you don't have that, please let me know in the chat, and I believe Sunny will, or someone will get you this file. The other file that was sent was an Excel workbook. You don't need to worry about opening this up and looking through it. I mean, you can if you want, but we're going to upload this to ChatGPT. It's all fake data. It's all made up, but it will be used to kind of showcase how the data analysis works. So if you already have your own customer feedback in some format like this, feel free to use that and go through the same prompts in real time. But if you don't, not a problem. You can just use the data set that that was included in the email a couple days ago. So when you open up, I mean, your screen's probably going to look like this with the template on the left. I've just hided that sidebar, and it might look slightly different in the model, but this is basically what it should look like. And the first step we're going to do is upload your Excel spreadsheet. So you just click this paper clip here, upload from computer. And I'm just going to go back and make sure I have this saved in the proper spots. So I'm just going to throw this in the inbox here. And you can save it as the same title that you received it, or you can name it your own title. It really doesn't matter. And then you want to, wherever you saved it, find it and upload it here. All right. Of course, I got to close it. It can't handle it being opened and also uploaded. Right, so that's the first step. And before you click enter, what I usually do is have a question associated with it. So I'm going to go to the prompt sheet in Microsoft Word, and I'm going to use this first one here as the example. So I have a data set of customer reviews for my hotel, share statistical summary of the overall satisfaction data. I'll just zoom in a little bit so it's probably a little bit easier for you to read on your end. All right, so I'm asking for statistical summary here based on this table. So I can click enter or just the arrow. You'll see it take a few moments to analyze the data. So the larger your data set, the larger your spreadsheet, the longer that takes. And so here you can see a summary of the statistics here. So count 99, we have 99 customer reviews. For the overall satisfaction data, there's that one column here, overall satisfaction. You can see we have a mean or an average of 4.4 if you round that up, standard deviation, minimum, percentiles, and maximum. So this is just when you're talking about statistics and statistical summary, like these are usually the key elements here. But you can see like we can ask anything about this data. So it pays to be curious about, and have questions, that you want your answers to. And if you don't know, you can always ask ChatGPT, what's interesting about this data set, or what are some good questions I can ask about this data? And it will respond and give you some prompts that you can then use. So I'm going to try to stay to the script here and go through this. So another interesting thing that ChatGPT can do now, which it wasn't able to do before in the free version. So I'm very excited that we can actually go through this with the free version, being able to upload documents, but also being able to use the data analysis and tools, because with the data analysis, you can also create charts and graphs and other types of visuals. So you can see I don't need to re-upload this Excel document. It should always reference back to that document. So you don't have to worry about that. It has the memory as you continue through the conversation. And here, I'm going to ask for it to create a column chart. So you can be very kind of broad and general in your prompt, or the more precise you are as far as what you want to see in your chart, the better the response is going to be from ChatGPT. So you can see you have lots of options here. You can go up to your data set and change some of these numbers, and it will actually change your data set in real time. So you can see that here with the switch to static chart, then it won't update based on the numbers. So changing that. I can download this chart here. So I think in the future, a lot of folks may not be using Microsoft Excel. They'll come to ChatGPT, upload the CSV file, the data set, the table, whatever it might be. I mean, you can even take a picture of numbers and results, and then it could upload and create these charts. So it's very interesting. If you don't like Excel or not comfortable with Excel, you can probably do a lot of that here directly through ChatGPT. And then, of course, I can expand the chart and make it larger. So here you'll see this is the rankings of overall satisfaction. 13 people ranked it a 3 out of 5, 38 a 4 out of 5, and 48 a 5 out of 5 here. I'll see if I can follow the chat along. Okay, interesting, Eileen. I'll have to ask, Eileen, have you been using this already today or in the last few days, or is this a limit just because you can only ask once? Because I wasn't aware that there's quite that limit. If not a huge issue. We can just follow along here on the screen. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is create a chart.
I guess one thing, Robert, like, if people are having these messages, I think that, like you're saying, I mean, following along is perfect. And then I think it's a real question that you want to ask yourself about your business. You can get this type of analysis and data done for, 20, 25 bucks a month as part of your marketing or business planning budget. So something to seriously consider. So that was just my own 2 cents I wanted to throw in there.
Yeah, entirely agree. So as we go through these examples, you're like, oh, that's neat. It's $20 a month American, so it's just over $30 a month Canadian for the Plus account. And then you can also get like a Teams account. So if you want to share it with your team, there's a little bit of extra functionality as far as creating your own custom GPTs, which we'll talk through quickly later. But there's lots of options there. And I mean, I find I get that value in like an hour, let alone an entire month. So I'm not endorsed by ChatGPT or anything like that, but I do recommend using that tool or another tool. As far as the original data that was from, this was just a download data set from Google. So I don't know exactly where it was pulled from, but it was from a larger data set, and I had to do some cleaning up as far as some of these reviews went. Create a chart that best describes the overall satisfaction data. So here you can see I'm not very specific about what that chart is. I'm just asking for any type of chart. So even if you don't know exactly what you want to visualize, you can get ChatGPT to do some of that work for you. And here you see, because I've created a column chart before, it's creating a similar chart, but you may get a different chart. So if I do this same prompt, you'll see this is a histogram. So it's talking about like buckets here, but you might get an entirely different chart, or you might get a similar chart, but with different colors, for example. So that's the beauty and the frustration of these AI tools is there's not a specific algorithm or path that it follows because it's generative AI. It'll create something and it might be a little bit different every time. So next, I know box plots can be very valuable information or visual or chart to visualize the data. It's also known as a box and whiskers. I might be taking you back to high school or undergraduate statistics with some of these different charts. But there are different ways and uses to visualize your data. So you see the box plot here. It does give you a brief explanation, but basically the lower 25 percentile, where 25% of the rankings were, is this red line here. So you can see at 4, the bulk of your data here is between 4 and 5, and then the minimum here is 3. So if you don't have any experience with the box plot, I can just ask, explain what the box plot is showing. And I could add to that, I could say, explain it like I'm at an 8th grade math level, for example. So you can customize the audience and how it explains it. But here you'll see it's talking through the median, the whiskers of a box plot, or otherwise known as a box and whisker, and if there's any outliers in your data. So if there are some red dots outside of those extremes, you would see that and be able to explain that. So now we're going to get into some really interesting use cases with ChatGPT. So those are just like basic visuals, statistics, summaries. But in that data set, you'll see there's a lot of qualitative comments and feedback. Like the rooms were messy, or the rooms were clean, or I didn't have a good customer experience. So all of that qualitative data, it takes a long time to read and parse through and understand any themes, but ChatGPT and generative AI can do a lot of that for you. So here I've said identify the most common themes for positive customer feedback. I've specified that I do not want words that are articles, conjunctions, transitional words. So like the words the, is, for example, like I don't want that showing up as themes, and I want them to format it in a table. So this is where we might get very different responses, and you might have to play with the prompt and make some tweaks through it. I've had to do a few things as far as, not providing these articles, conjunctions. Sometimes it does still come up. One trick with ChatGPT is it's better off to say what to provide than what not to provide. Because when you say do not provide this and give it specifics, it kind of thinks about those things, even when you said not. So some things you have to play with. So for example, here I have was and is, which I told it not to do, but you'll see sometimes it does do. But some interesting things here that you'll see: common positive themes, room 28. So it's hard to say exactly what was it about that room, but chances are they like the room, they like the size, they like the layout. Breakfast is something that came out here. So it's obviously a good breakfast, or a large breakfast, whatever it might be. I don't want words like but location, where it sits amongst other things. So some things here you can say, okay, that's great. Let's double down in this area. Maybe these are things that we can help promote about our business. That if everyone likes the breakfast, we can start pushing more of that in our marketing material or our sales. So I'm going to continue on here. And I'll say, do the same analysis, but do not include words such as very, good. And I'll just say is, it was, and see what comes up. And the better results you're going to get with ChatGPT is the more concise and formal you are in that. So instead of saying like you should do this, say you must do this. So the more concise and strict you are, often the better responses here. So you can see very good is it. Those are now removed. So you can treat ChatGPT as a very iterative response here, that if you don't like what you see, tell it. Tell it what it should do better. Tell it what it needs to remove or what it needs to add. So don't be afraid to just try something at first and then have a bit of a conversation and go back and forth with the data.
Robert, sorry, I just wanted to jump in there because I like how it's asking you to, if you want to analyze negative feedback similarly as well, because I mean, when we're talking about quality, and we don't mean quality from a physical standpoint, we could mean from a customer service standpoint. So even having that negative feedback is just as vital as well. So I just love that it's so smart and intelligent that it can kind of give you those options.
Yeah, and this is a new functionality. So a couple weeks ago, these options weren't even here. So it just goes to show how quickly this technology is evolving. So I could click analyze negative feedbacks themes similarly. So let's try that. And it will just likely put that exact phrasing in as a prompt. And we'll see how that comes up, because that was going to be my next step here in the bullet. So it's almost like it's reading my mind here. So here you can see water is a count of 7 in highest on the negative feedback. if you go through the data, if you saw in the charts here, there wasn't a lot of negative feedback. Most of the scores were like 3, 4s, and 5s, which is why you're seeing these themes at a much lower count here. But who knows what your data set might look like and where you want to kind of dig deeper. So water, it's hard to say exactly what it is about the water. Was it the quality of the water in the room? Was it the temperature of the water in the shower? Was it raining outside and there was lots of water and puddles? So this is where you need to either ask ChatGPT to explain further or do your own digging in the spreadsheet itself. So I'm going to skip a couple and I'm going to say, you know what? Can you explain why water? I did this before and clean came up, but in this case, water's coming up, which is interesting. Can you explain why water was in the negative feedback? Were there examples of feedback that the room, or I'll just say here, give specific examples from the data set? So here we see the water from the kitchen tap was lukewarm at best. Water pressure in the shower was poor. So those are two things about negative that were about water. Water pressure in the shower is very poor. So you can see like it's doing all of the hard work for you. You can imagine if you had hundreds of customer reviews and you wanted to try to go through that manually, it would take a long, long time. So using a tool like ChatGPT can shortcut a lot of that. Here, water temperature was hard to control, fluctuating between too hot and too cold. All right. So you'll see here, I got 3 examples and there was a count of 7. So maybe I can say, can you pull the 4 other examples or water examples from the data set? And I can ask that as a question. Often you'll get a better response if you do it as like a request or a demand. So this is just by habit. I'm hardwired, to ask questions and be polite. Sometimes you might want to go back and just be more pronounced and say, pull the 4 water examples from the data set. So typically you want to start with like an action word or a verb when you're interacting with ChatGPT. And so this is some cases where you may get either mistakes or it might not be 100% accurate, or you might need to actually prompt and push it a little bit more. It says there's no additional negative reviews mentioning water, but above we had a count of 7. So you can't always take ChatGPT at face value, but it's always a good starting point to dig deeper and to have a bit more of a conversation. So doing this earlier, I saw a comment about Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi is poor. Or maybe you didn't see anything about Wi-Fi, but you're just curious. Was there anything in the feedback about Wi-Fi? And you could ask any question. Was there anything specific about room temperature? Was there anything specific about food or breakfast or whatever you're curious about your business and what people are asking or saying or commenting? You can put that in the prompt for ChatGPT. So here I asked, were there any specific comments about the Wi-Fi? Share the comments and the feedback scores associated with that comment in a table format. So you can ask it for any type of format, bullets, lists, tables, whatever it might be. So you can see here, it's a table format. I have the review title, so that's where it is in the list, or when they're doing a review, there's the title and then the text or the comments. So those are these 2 columns here. This would be the associated row number of that comment, and then we could see the associated score. So Wi-Fi is very bad, sad face. Doesn't have Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is very patchy and prone to disconnects. So you could say, oh, interesting. We heard that from 3 people. Let me go back and see, were they in a specific room maybe, and we need to fix Wi-Fi in that area? Was it a specific day that they stayed and it was just kind of a blip or an outlier? Or maybe there's a pattern here that we need to invest in and fix our Wi-Fi. So now as you're going through this, you can see maybe there's some trends and patterns here with my data. I wonder what factors into the overall score, because that might be your most important, or like a net promoter score. What's a big influence there? And one visual or chart to do or analyze that is a scatter plot. So here I've asked it to create a scatter plot of the overall satisfaction on the y-axis and the value for money on the x-axis. So that was the other ranking or rating that we asked for. I got a little bit more specific here about the scale because it values from 1 to 5, or that was the score. I've set the scale from 0 to 6, so everything can be seen very cleanly. I've also asked to include a line of best fit, and this is like the trend or correlation between the two. And I've asked it to explain if the scores are correlated, which basically means, is there a relationship between the value for money score and the overall satisfaction score? And ideally, if you're using my data set and able to go through this, the chart here, it might look slightly different on the scales or how it's picturing the data points. But if we talk about the actual math behind it, like the correlation coefficient, it should be identical. So because we asked, explain if the scores are correlated, if you do get a correlation score, it should be the exact same as what I'm seeing, but your chart and your explanation might look a little different. So Jennifer, can you ask it to create a separate data tab in spreadsheets that copies data sets that contain a certain topic? Now, I don't believe you can update the data set, but let's try. I think it's usually just one way it pulls from the data set, especially depending on how you uploaded. But you can always just ask. That's what I love about ChatGPT. If you're not sure if it can do something or not, just try it or just ask. Please. Oh, that's bizarre. I've not had that happen to me before. Let me do this quickly. And I'll likely have to re-upload the data set. No, it's back to the beginning. Interesting. The joy of doing this live and working with technology. So I'll ask here, I hope this isn't a copy. There we go. Can you create a separate data tab in the spreadsheet that copies data sets that contain a certain topic? Okay. That copies data from the table that contains a certain topic. So we'll see what comes up here. What we can do is ask it to provide a table format or structure of a specific topic that will come back here. Oh, that's really cool. So here it's saying it's already created a tab in the spreadsheet named Wi-Fi feedback, which contains the data related to the comments. So it may depend on how you upload it here, but there is that functionality built in, which is very cool. So if I go back to the table, yeah. And I have it here, sheet 1. My guess is somewhere along the way, I might be able to do it sheet 2 or download this table, and it's going to have the updated tab. So let's just quickly test that. And what I might need to do is ask it to refresh the table or have something later. So again, like just playing with it and experimenting and getting curious is the best way to use these tools. Yeah, so it didn't work here. My guess is I might have to refresh it, but it sounds like if I want to use that tab, or I want to do analysis from that tab, I now could because of this comment. All right, let's continue with the script here. All right. So I'm just going to edit this message just so I can follow the same stream of the conversation here. So here I wanted to create the same chart and table from here. This time substitute customer service in for value for money. So I'm just swapping the two. So instead of rewriting the entire prompt again, I'm just asking it to update and edit. You'll see anytime that you edit a prompt here, it'll keep a history of that so you can kind of scroll through. So if you didn't like the response it gave, you want to give it more information or more detail, you can do it right within that prompt versus creating a new prompt. So here we have customer service versus overall satisfaction. And we see as the satisfaction scores go up, so do the customer service scores. So there is some correlation here. And it's approximately 0.62, which suggests a moderate positive correlation. So if you can increase your customer service scores, I mean, this kind of makes sense. You're going to increase your overall satisfaction scores. But you can kind of combine or compare different scores and say, which has more of an impact or more of a factor on the overall satisfaction? Is it value for money? Is it customer service? Or is it any other type of score? And here, I'll be like, what does that 0.62 actually mean? Now I can ask it. What does the correlation coefficient of 0.62 mean? And here it's giving me a full breakdown and answer of what it actually means. So the direction means it's a positive relationship. So as one goes up, the other goes up. 0.62 falls into the range of moderate correlation. So it's not a perfect relationship. It doesn't mean that if you increase customer service by a point, it's going to automatically increase overall satisfaction by a point, which makes sense because there's so many other factors at play. But there is a fairly strong moderate correlation here. And of course, it gives you some implications. So for practical purposes, focusing on improving customer service could positively impact overall satisfaction. All right, so next, we're going to ask it, looking at these two of these charts, do you recommend I focus my efforts on decreasing the price or providing more customer service? So now you actually have some data and math to back that up. Where should I focus my limited efforts and resources here? And here it's going back to the math. So it says, all right, the difference between the correlation coefficients were 0.64 and 0.62. So it's slightly higher, but here they're recommending a balanced approach. Since both factors are closely correlated with overall satisfaction, don't necessarily pick one over the other. So it's saying because there's a slightly higher correlation, you might want to improve value for money, but you can also enhance customer service, and it's giving you some ideas for doing that. So next, I want to say, okay, looking at the data that I've provided, what are some strengths and opportunities mentioned in the positive feedback? A lot of the time you'll get feedback, people will recommend different things. This is what you should do, or different actions, or if you did this, that would make me happier, instead of just saying something negative. So you can provide recommendations, and how to do this in business growth, but also marketing opportunities. So again, as you're following along, if I might be going through a little bit at a faster speed, just because I want to get through it all and show what it's capable of. So if you're unable to follow in real time now, you have the prompts, you have the script, try it on your own later. You have the data sets, try it with your own data. And then if you've got time out, or maybe you know this is time to invest and pay the money up front, then you can go through all of this as well. So here you can see it's quite a long response of different recommendations based on the strengths and the opportunities from the data sets. So it's not just, you can see it's using some information from the data set itself and some of the comments, but it also has its own large language model in behind the scenes, and it's pulling on its own training data to give you recommendations as well. So if we quickly scroll through here, you'll see the room was a strength and opportunity. So your format, again, if you're following along in real time, it might look a lot different, but positive comments about the rooms indicate they were well received. So the recommendation might be to highlight room features and the quality of the marketing materials. Use images and testimonials. So that's a pretty good idea. If you got good rooms, then you should take more pictures and advertise those rooms. Breakfast here, cleanliness, location. So that's all for marketing. Now you can see it's got some more opportunities for leveraging this. So targeted marketing campaigns, social media engagement, enhanced online presence, and so on. So based on the texts and reviews the customers provided, tell me what aspects the customers were disappointed or upset with, and provide some recommendations. So we did this from a strengths and opportunities, kind of a positive frame. Now let's approach it from a negative frame, and what are some of the weaknesses and how can we close that gap? Yeah, so Sunny, I'm just catching your question now. I don't I don't know of the specific tools to like scrape data from Google reviews or Yelp or anything else. I think there is other software that you can use that can like download or translate or put it in like a CSV or table or Excel spreadsheet. So I'm not entirely sure what that is. You can Google it and probably find it, but if anyone else knows, please feel free to enter it in the chat. The other option you can do is if there's a hyperlink through Google that has a list of your reviews, you can just insert that hyperlink and ask it to do the same type of analysis based on that web page or that website. So you can always use hyperlinks. You can go and put your website in here and say, make recommendations to improve my website for converting customers. And it will actually go through your website and give you some ideas. So here we see disappointments. So water issues. So it's giving you recommendations. Conduct a thorough inspection of the plumbing system to ensure consistent water temperature and pressure. So again, it's fairly generic, but might be a good idea based on customer feedback. Some people had room issues, so maybe it's worth investing here, maybe not, because it compared to the positive ones, you're always going to get people that complain no matter what. Temperature control, building condition, the view, the cleanliness. So you can kind of go through this and analyze and see where you might want to make your improvements. All right, now we have a bit of a larger prompt here. You can see this, some of this can build on each other. So don't feel like you need to get all of it in one prompt. You know, ask it questions as you go, and it's going to give you more ideas of what you can ask. So here I wanted to create a table with 3 columns. So the recommendation itself, how easy it is to implement on a scale of 1 to 10, and the anticipated benefit. So I've given it a few other instructions about how to consider the ease of implementation, how to calculate the anticipated benefit. And I've got a nice little emotional prompt at the end. This is very important to my business. There's some studies that have shown that ChatGPT responds better when you actually put more emotion into your efforts. So this is very important to my business. My job depends on this. I'm going to tip you $1,000 for the best response. These are all things that can actually provide better responses. I've tried it. It's not noticeable, but they've done statistical studies and they have shown that there are some significance when you add these things in. So here you should see that it's starting to fill out the table after it analyzes. So the longer the prompt and the more complex, often the longer it will take to respond. A little longer than usual. But here you can see it almost gives you a bit of a roadmap or game plan. So all of the recommendations here highlight room features and quality of materials. You know, highlighting that in marketing material is very easy. So it's ranking at a 9 out of 10, and it thinks it's going to be highly beneficial. So it's ranking it an 8 out of 10. You know, these are all numbers that you want to kind of look at on your own and say, you know what, it's not actually going to be that beneficial. It doesn't know your context, your audience. It might not be as easy as it thinks it is, but it's always a good starting point. Instead of starting from scratch, you can just say, that's good enough. Maybe I want to start there with the highest impact and easiest to implement. So you can see all of the different marketing here. I can download this, or I can ask it to write it out in a paragraph format or in a bulleted list versus the table. So lots of different options here as far as formatting goes. And you can see it does it twice here. So this is the data analysis version. And then here it's a much easier readable version that you can copy and paste. Install or upgrade HVAC systems, ease of implementation 3, because it's going to take time and it's going to take money to do, versus a lot of the other ones that might be quicker wins. So I can continue to build on this. Based on the scores, create an action plan, include estimated timelines and costs for each. So now it's building out an action plan for you in phases. And it's going to give you an estimate for timelines, an estimate for cost, and the specific steps. So how it comes up with the cost, again, based on its training data. So it may be close, but it's not necessarily aware that you're in Nova Scotia and how much it costs for contractors or materials or professional services. So it's all relative, but it is a good starting point. So you see I have 3 phases here: short, medium, and long term, and the different costs associated with it. Again, may not be accurate, but most of these are roughly in the right ballpark. And it's actually structured this so your quick wins are up front, highest benefit, lowest cost. And here you can see it being listed out in a summary table. So quick win here: share guest testimonials and social media. Ease of implementation 9, benefits 7 out of 10, 1 week, $0. So I see we have 10 minutes left. I quickly want to go through the custom GPT So if you do decide to purchase the Plus subscription, you have the opportunity to create your own GPT. And you can think of this as its own instance of ChatGPT with specialized instructions and a specialized knowledge base. So instead of you having to upload documents every single time, you can keep that in the back end. It will remember those documents, and then you can just ask questions at any time. So I'm going to open up the sidebar here. Even with the free account, you should be able to see Explore GPTs. And if you've used any before, they'll show up here on the left. So again, I recommend you checking some of these out. There's a lot of cool tools that have already been developed and built by others. So they might be worth looking for you. Logo creator, Canva consensus is based on all technical and scientific literature. But if you have a paid account, you can create your own. And what I'm going to do quickly here is create my own GPT. So what this is doing is I want to create a GPT. I'll call it the Customer Insights Wizard. And this is a custom built GPT that's just looking at customer feedback and providing insights and recommendations. So the best use cases for this is when you have a team and they might not know how to use ChatGPT well, and you want to help them and guide them to using the data set or using policies or something in the back end, then you can build something like this. So especially for repetitive tasks, it's nice to use. So the important piece here is the instructions. This is what you're telling ChatGPT to do, how to act, what the objective is. And here I have conversation starters. And these are just things that come up when anyone uses the GPT. Instead of creating their own question, they can just click a conversation starter and it will prompt for them. So it's just to help give them ideas. And I'll upload the Excel file here. And so you can see, because I had a lot of this copied and pasted, I can do it in a matter of a minute or two. It'll take a little bit longer for you to create your own, but you can always go to create, and it's an interactive conversation to actually build your own. So this is one idea for data analysis. You can build your own GPT for anything. So anything that you do repetitively. I'm working with a client right now to help write proposals using a custom GPT that helps summarize reports and RFPs and leverage past proposals that they've written to help custom build proposals. So there's lots and lots of options and opportunities here. So we'll go back to configure. I have my knowledge. So this is the spreadsheet. I have specific instructions, and I'm just going to create this. I'm going to do it only for me. I have the option to create a link so I can share it with anyone, or I can publish it to the GPT store so anyone can use it. But in a lot of cases, you might just want to use this for yourself. So here you see the conversation starter. I just click a button and it can actually provide this for you. So there's here, you can give it in like specific formats if you want it here, instead of retyping that in a prompt every single time. You keep it in the instructions, and it makes it a lot easier to interact with the GPT. So here you can see I didn't have to upload any documents because it's in the knowledge base. It knows anytime that I make a response or a prompt, it's going through that spreadsheet. So that's basically what I wanted to share today. We have 5+ minutes here. If there's any other questions, comments, or feedback. I do want to share a link that if you do have any formal feedback, or you want a copy of these prompts or anything else to get in touch with me, I really do appreciate feedback. I try to make these sessions very engaging and interactive and valuable, most importantly. So if you do have any feedback at all, I would appreciate that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Robert. That was awesome. Super informative. Eileen, thank you so much. From Jeff. Like, super great information. So if there's no more questions, I guess I would say Robert is available to book a one-on-one. He's also are you a digital, like TDAP digital service provider as well? Do you know?
I don't. Was that the one
Well,
that you had to get signed up ahead of time and be on a list?
yeah, we'll connect
Think
to a
so,
digital
but
on that one because I think that'd be a good opportunity as well. So I'll share the screen now. Thank you so much, Robert. That was amazing. So much great information. I think we'll all go back and take a second watch. So thanks again. And I'm just going to share the screen, take the screen back over. And thanks, Robert. Have a good day. Enjoy the sun.
great. Thank you.
All right, so that was such a great session. We had so much knowledge shared. I myself will be reviewing it again. We have one more webinar before the end of the year, so it's going to be next Thursday, end of the year. Sorry, end of the before our summer break. I'm thinking end of the year because of the school. So we have next Thursday, Summer Social Media Success. That's going to be with Kara O'Coin from KA Social Media. We're going to pause again July, August, and we're back in September. So I hope to see you next week, and definitely in September. We have our travel trade program application deadline is June 30th. We aim to help Nova Scotia tourism businesses develop partnerships with tour operators and travel agents to increase national and international sales. The program offers support through two streams: travel trade readiness and marketplace support. So check that out. If you have any questions, feedback, or anything you'd like to tell us about the webinars, send us an email at tnsbusiness@novascotia.ca. Our corporate website is tourismns.ca, and where we share all relevant programs, data, webinars is on our news and resources section. So check that out. Our call to action and on our marketing is novascotia.com. So please make sure you check that out, that your business is there and it's up to date. You can find us on X as Tourism NS. You can also find us on LinkedIn at Tourism Nova Scotia. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.